I'm here. I don't think I need to tell you. Obviously, you could see. And it is a beautiful day. It was saying that there was a chance of rain at exactly 4 p.m. today, which would be pretty much par for the course for when I do the lives. It doesn't rain all day till right when I start, but I think we're gonna make it, because look at that sky, it's looking pretty good. And where I'm sitting, I came and sat down here a little bit because I'm just down on this little entryway. Hi, Angela, because there was a sweet little man over there playing his accordion. But he just took a break. But it's kind of a good place to sit right down here. I wish I had a little tripod to hold this. Anyway, so we are here, and you know, we are almost just 200 days away from being back inside Notre Dame. Here comes the accordion guy. He was playing the chicken dance, harken back to my nightmare of event planner days. But we are here outside Notre Dame to go over some more of the fantastic things that have been happening. And just in the last couple weeks, one of the coolest things to happen was this entire transept of the south side here has been uncovered. So it was totally encased in scaffolding. And just over the last 2 weeks, it's all come down. And it's quite exciting. So the south side here, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of history here on the south side. So the south transept here that we see today was done in the 13th century. We don't know, the first when Notre Dame was first built was 1161, although the first stone was laid in April of around Easter of 1163. The Bishop Sully would have started it actually in 1161. So by the 13th century, it had, even though it took almost 200 years to build, they had to do work in the 13th century on the building. And that included changing the facades of the north and the south transept. So here we see, and it's just absolutely amazing. And they widened it from what it had originally been, and then they had topped it with all these fantastic stone sculptures. And of course, we have the spire up there. But it was the architect Jean Duchel, and he was the architect from 1256 until 1265. And he only stopped being the architect because he died, unfortunately. But he is the first actual architect that we know. So there was 4 architects before that. We don't know who any of them are. We don't have any of their names, but we do have Jean's name. He was, he did on the portal at the lower part of this, at the very lower part of the south transept, he inscribed at it that on the 12th of February 1257, he began the work on the south transept in the honor of the Mother of Christ. So for Our Lady. And most of what you see there, the top part has been restored. I'll tell you all about that. But when Duchel died, another architect, Pierre de Montreuil, he took over. He had already been working he'd worked on Saint-Denis, he worked on Saint-Germain-des-Prés, Saint-Chapelle, and then he was asked to come and take over here. And he is known as one of the greatest Gothic architects of that time, of the Rayonnette period. So he went in there and finished this up. So while Jean had done the beginning of the building of the south transept, it was actually under Pierre that we have the fantastic rose window. And below it, you could just see the bit just below, kind of where that little peak is underneath the rose window. That is the door of Saint Etienne. And Saint Etienne is the first martyred saint, and he was killed by stoning. But Saint Etienne is actually pretty important for the island and for Paris, because the first church that was ever here on the island was known as Saint Etienne. And then, of course, we have the Saint Etienne du Mont, which is up on the hill, which is where the relic of Saint Geneviève is. And that it was named that church in honor of our man Saint Etienne here. So on this door, we'll be able to see that. We probably won't even be able to see that until maybe end of 2025, 2026, because after they finish with the cathedral and opens in December, they're going to then do a ton of work on the outside. They're going to do a lot of work on the buttresses and other stuff on the actual church. So just because it opens December 8th, it doesn't mean they're stopped. And then after that, they're going to do a ton of work all around on the surrounding area, adding more trees. So we probably won't be able to get down there and see for quite a long time, but maybe the platform hopefully maybe should be gone so we can see it a little bit better. But it's a really cool door. It is what they used to come in, because you have the sacristy there on the right, the little building poking out here on the right, and they would use that door to go into the cathedrals at times, and when they would have big processions coming off of there. But good old Saint Etienne, he's on the church quite a few times, including up above. But the rose window itself, this was done when it was done in the 13th century. In 1257 is when they started it. It was done under Saint Louis. Saint Louis was the king of the time, Louis IX, and he is the one that actually commissioned and paid to have that window done, which is pretty amazing when you think that Saint Louis, who is from such a long time ago, and then there's something right there that we get to look at that he did. And of course, Saint Louis is very attached to the church because that's where the crown of thorns will return after we reopen. But there was a fire in here in 1235, so the fire 2019 wasn't the only one. So in 1235, they had a fire, and so that was also what kind of spearheaded redoing both of the transepts. And then it was redone again. So in 1725 by Beaufort, which was the next biggest from the 13th century to the 18th century. That was the next biggest work that they had done on it. And it was under Louis XIV that they started doing work on it again. And Robert de Cotte we have the policeman coming by here. Robert de Cotte was an architect, and he's the one who started doing a lot of the work under Louis XIV. And so he, with the architect Beaufort, rebuilt the work here and the rose window. So, and then of course there's another guy that did a lot of that work on it as well, which is Viollet-le-Duc, my second favorite architect of Notre Dame. But from May 1860 to July 1867, he took apart the entire rose window. So part of it, about 80% of it, is actually still original, but he had to take it apart because with Gothic architecture is all about light and getting light into the church. So that's why you have these really light pieces. So instead of, like, if you go into other churches like Saint Etienne du Mont, which is actually very, very bright. And then if you go into Saint Eustache or Saint Germain des Prés is a very dark church. And so the difference is with these Gothic churches like this, because you have the flying buttresses, you have all these pieces that that distributes the weight, so it makes it actually light, not only light in luminosity, but light as in feeling of oppression because of the darkness. So with the rose window, it's in Gothic architecture. It is actually used to help distribute the weight, and so that it makes it actually look like it's just this beautiful lacework. So when it was actually originally done in the 13th century, it was actually almost too light. So it didn't have a lot of structure to it, and it was in danger of it actually falling. There was quite a few pieces of glass in there that had been broken just because of that. So Mr. Viollet-le-Duc had the whole entire thing taken apart, and he had it twisted. So he twisted it just 15%, which is basically a half of one of those big petals that you see coming out of the center. So not very much, basically like the second layer petals, maybe half of one of those, or just one of those. And so he had it just basically twisted just a tiny little bit. And so this rose window tells the story of the New Testament. The north window is the Old Testament. The south window is the New Testament. It's also called the midday rose because it does get all of that midday sun. And I cannot wait to get back inside here, and I just can't wait. The last time, obviously, any of us were in there was 2019. I think I was at winter of 2019. And I just can't wait to get back in there and see everything and get reacquainted with all of the windows and everything that's in there. But when you look at the window, which we, From the outside, it's not. We can't see it very well, but on the very middle of it is is Christ, and then around it in that first row of little petals, you see that it has 5 of the apostles, and then it also has the saints and a king, and then on the outside of that, it has 7 more of the apostles. And it has the more saints, and then the third layer has the martyrs, the virgin, and then also the annunciation. So that goes all the way around on the outside. And when it was actually restored in the 14th century, the cardinal at the time add his crest of arms in there, because I guess why not. Underneath that, you have the row of windows, and those are the apostles again, and they are stretched between each side. So you have some on the north and some on the south here. But I love it. It's so funny that when you look, I mean, obviously you're not getting the same kind of light, but stained glass from the outside just looks so dark, and you don't see really any of those beautiful colors. But on the inside, oh, so beautiful. But when Viollet-le-Duc had it, he had Alfred Géronte, who was the glassmaker at the time. And so when you look at it, of the petals as you see it, the pretty much the third layer of that, the third layer petals, all of those are original. And then the other ones, it's on the outside, it's pretty much that whole row on the outside is all modern, so 18th century. And then the ones in the middle are just kind of a little mix. It's about half and half old and new. But they still have some of those old ones. So hopefully all of those things go into the museum that they'll open at the Hotel Dieu years, I'm sure, from now. But the church itself, it's hard to see right now because we have so much scaffolding, but the church itself has 1,100 square feet of stained glass. The very top layer is called the clear story, which is, you know, kind of a funny and not so technical, but very apt name for it, because it is the very top level is where you want to get all of the light into the church. And that was the only layer of glass they took out when the fire happened, because it was at that very top level of the church. You have the small rose window up here as well, but that doesn't have, the windows don't have any big significance. But of the windows that are inside, nothing was damaged at all. There was a few cracks in some, but those actually, those cracks actually dated to long before that. Look at this nice little party on a boat here. How great is that? Let's get that. Everybody come to Paris. We'll rent a boat. Wait till they go. It's a little noisy. So when they had the gables here, so when we're looking actually at the outside of the transept here, the very top of that is, most of all of that is new. So the Christ that's on the very top, he is the one that Viollet-le-Duc did in the 19th century, but they had to redo his hands off of and part of his head, but the rest of it they found to be structurally okay. And the love of my life, Philippe Villeneuve, of course, was, they looked at every single one of these things. They took those off pretty much immediately within the day or two after the fire, because on the north side, the gable they said there were some reports of people saying it even shook. They saw it move when the spire fell. So the first thing they did was actually cover both of the gables on the north and the south side with netting to protect them, and then they took those pieces off of it. Down below it on the left, you have Saint Marcel, and Saint Marcel was the 9th bishop of Paris in the 5th century. He was the one that was really good friends with my homegirl, Saint Geneviève. And then on the right, you have Saint Etienne. Again, Saint Etienne, he's just everywhere on the church. But they had to redo most all of this stuff. So they had quite a few different workers doing it. One of it was the Monument L'Enfouis company, and then another one was Dubuc, and they got most of the stone from the 2 quarries in La Croix and Saint-Maximin, and they brought all of this stone here, and the pieces that they redid and resculpted, they did right here at Notre Dame. So in front of the church, on the parve was a big tent, and they were taking that down when I was by here about a week ago. So we'll walk by and see if it's gone. But they were doing all of that work here, and then they'd bring it up. So when they drop in like the statues that are on the top, they have them encased in these big, huge like metal rods, and then they drop the rods into the structure, so everything's in there. It's not just one huge piece that you see. Same thing with all of those flowers that are off of there. So there are 15 gargoyles up there that they carve. There's 80 florets that you see on the little pinnacles there. There's 70 chimeras, which are basically gargoyles, but a gargoyle specifically spits out water, and the name gargoyle comes from the sound of gargling. And that is where they got the name. But the chimeras, there's 70 up there, and then there's 40 meters of foliage and the 750 hooks. So there is a lot of work up there. And there was just recently on one of the Notre Dame official Instagram accounts, is they showed the workers working on the ones on the north side. So those should be closely behind, but that one got damaged even more because the fire was literally coming out of that upper rose window. And so that one had a lot more damage, and so a lot of that actually has to be completely replaced. So down below, when you look on either side of the rose window, you see two statues. There used to be some in each one of those little niches, so you could see, let me zoom in here, you could see those little guys there. There used to see where the little niches in on either side. Oops, sorry. There were some on each side. So there was Adam and Eve up there. Now those no longer, we no longer have those, but the Adam is actually over at the Musée Cluny. And then we also have Saint Denis in there, and then we also have Saint Martin again. I told you, he's everywhere in here. But look at how great that window is. It's just so amazing every time I come down here and you get to see everything that's going on. They're not working today, but all week, every time you come, they're taking down scaffolding, they're hoisting up stone that's going up there, and it's pretty cool. So over here, see on the top of the sacristy, this is a great little example. You see in the top of the sacristy there with a lead roof. So that's what the lead roof's going to return to. And you could kind of see, I don't know if it's easy to see, can you guys see at this angle? But at the very top of that, you have some beautiful lead decorations. And those also went all the way across the roof. And those were done under Viollet-le-Duc, because he had changed the sacristy. The sacristy has changed multiple times. I need to do one just about the sacristy, maybe in a newsletter or another video. But the sacristy has been rebuilt many times because it was sacked and looted and things were stolen from it. But you see the little piece there. So they are doing those in 4,000 square meters of lead is going to cover the roof, and then also to do those pieces. And a lot of those pieces were so delicate before that they because they were done different ways, that they decided this time to make actually a mold. They pour the lead into it. So they take the lead and they heat it up to 450 degrees, and they have about 45 seconds to pour it while it's still hot, and then it has to dry overnight. But all of those pieces have already been done and created. All of those pieces that go up on the roof, like you see there, it'll be the same exact, those rectangulars, those are already all done as well. And so they're just actually bringing them in from Normandy, from different workshops, and bringing them up the river and just going and laying them in place. And then they'll drop the roof line in there as well. Oh, I don't see the clump anymore here on the end, the little flowers. But that's going to be pretty fantastic to get to see that. So, but the roof, one really cool thing, and then we'll kind of get moving. The roof, one really cool thing about it is, you know, we have the 26 trusses that were dropped into there. It dropped into place. So now they are laying, they've already laid the first layer of wood sheeting over there, and then they're putting English paper in there, which makes it so it's waterproof. And then the pieces, like you see on the sacristy, they lay over each other, and there's leather tabs on either side, and that's how they lock it into place so that it does stay nicely waterproof up there. Oh goodness, that scared me. But one other thing that's really cool about the roof is, so they have to do everything here in the original way that it was created. And because you have parts of the church that were created in the Middle Ages, that's very rude. That were done. Oh, there's people getting in trouble because they're late for the boat. They have, some of it was done in the Middle Ages, some of it was done later in the 18th century, and some of the 19th century. So depending on where that was in the roof. So back here in the choir, you have that is 12th century, and then you get up to the, because they built the church from the back going forward, and then in the front of the church you have parts of it that are 13th century, and both of those techniques were different. So that's what they're doing today still. So the people that are working on the choir are doing it a little bit differently than the people working on the front. I mean, I love it so much. I just think that's just so amazing that they are doing it that way. And if you remember the last time we did this last month around the anniversary, they 50 different special axes made by 3 different foundries, and they made them so that they will make they're in the same exact style as they would have been in the 12th and 13th century. So when they make the marks on the wood, when they're chopping at it, it looks the same as it would have back when it was originally done. I love it so much. It's just so amazing. But I will go up here a little since our guy just stopped. It's perfect timing. Let me get myself situated with all my bag here. I wore my coat today in case it rained, and now of course it's a little too warm. But here she is. You can see the spire. So for the spire there on the lower part, you have what is called the open work. So that bottom part, you see it's still in wood because they have to finish almost all of the roof. So once it gets close to there, because those sides coming down, if you remember what it looks like before when you had the statues up there, it was a roof line. So it's not going to go all the way. So that little open spot where you see that other scaffolding with the ladder, that's not going to be butted up right to the edge because they finished the roof and then they drop down the sides because that's where our statues are going to return. So that is what they will do later. But by the fact that they have that scaffolding up right there, that's actually a very good sign. So then they will start covering all of that, and those pieces have already been done, and so it pretty much is going to turn almost into like, you know, snapping it together like an erector set or Legos up there, just snapping all of that lead back on there. And there's our beautiful rooster. But if you are in Paris and you did not see those statues, you have until June 2nd to go to the Architectural Museum at the Trocadero to see them, because on June 3rd, they leave, and which is good news because that means they will be coming back here soon if they are leaving the museum. The exhibit they have there about Notre Dame goes until September, but the statues will leave. So I'm gonna have to go back. I think I've been there 6 or 7 times. I'm gonna definitely have to go back one more time to see them up close because I just love them. Should I tell this guy behind me telling it somebody that's gonna take another year to finish it? Should I tell him? I do sometimes love to overhear people talking. All right, but the flying buttresses, all of that stuff, these will be worked on later. And when I get a lot of times when I'm doing tours over here, a lot of people ask me about these red tubings. That is actually pulling in, it's kind of like a vacuum system. So when they're in there, especially, you know, when they've been doing stuff on the work, on the walls, and all of the dust and everything, that pulls all of that out. So you have quite a bit of it. Up here we have the tower, so we'll kind of walk around here. It is a beautiful day in Paris, so it means it's a little busy, but we're gonna go right in front of all these people. It is a holiday weekend because tomorrow is Whit Monday. So it is a little quieter for actual Parisians. Let me see. Look at this. Get you guys over here so you can see it. This is where it always gets kind of crowded, but look at that. So beautiful. It's perfect right now. This is sitting outside with a rosé, perfect weather. I've been inside all day doing research for this and for podcast. When I'm doing research, I was doing it all day long about Notre Dame and also the paintings. And probably what I researched today, 90% of that I'm not even using because I will find things to share other times. But here you can see. So pretty. But if you come into Paris and you're coming in December or after the cathedral opens, reach out for a tour, because I already am spending a majority of my time these days doing tours of Notre Dame on the outside and the island. So it's going to, I can't wait to be able to share the inside with everybody. And depending on how the signal is, we'll definitely do some videos from in there. If not, at least record some videos. Okay, we're gonna head into the crowded part. The Fête de Pain was going on, the bread festival, but I think that's actually done. Oh, eBay. Okay. I'm gonna push our way through here. Oh, we have the rollerbladers. I haven't seen these guys here since before the fire. Look at how shiny the rooster is. See the I don't know if I could walk. We're gonna. I think the tents are down. So, but the one other really amazing thing that just two things that were just recently finished and getting ready for their return. And one of those things is the only thing that was on the roof that survived the fire, and it has been updated, cleaned, and it is going to be coming back. And so that is a cross, and this cross was on the very back part of the choir. Let me show you right over actually on this. You can see it in here. You see over here on the top, the very top of that there, right there in the center. So that was an actual cross that was there, and it stood at about 42 feet high. And I remember coming, I'm gonna go down here, it was not so loud. I remember coming here 4 days after the fire when I arrived to Paris, and I came straight here and saw it hanging off of the edge of the roof line still 4 days later. And I saw it from far away, and I took some pictures of it, so I will definitely share those. But they were able to take it down, and they completely redid it. So it was designed by Viollet-le-Duc, 43 feet, and it had 100 pieces of foliage on it in iron, copper, and lead. It took 8 months for them to restore it, but it is the original, and it's being restored, and it will go back up onto the roof. It says in June is what they said. So that is super exciting. But you can see here, which I think I might have shown you these before, but it's really interesting because since we were just talking all about the roof, you see on there how they're doing there. So they have the first, the trusses, then they have the smaller ones that go in the middle, the secondary trusses, and then you have the roof ridge. So there's the pieces, and you see those little straps. Those are the leather straps that go in between there. But inside, the work inside is almost done, and they just now started to finish closing up the vaults from the inside. So you have down there, you see all that scaffolding here in this little spot here. up above because they had scaffolding built up really high because of getting the base for the spire in there. So they had to wait till that scaffolding came down so they could finish closing up all of those vaults, the one biggest vault that's in there under the transept. And of course, here's a good example you see of that ridge line. So, and then they'll have it going over and across. Try not to. But these are really great because they update these walls every few months. And here is our south rose window. There. Oh, hello, sir. You can see that with the transept. And the old Archbishop's Place, which is not there anymore. And I'll tell you a little bit about all the other buildings that used to be here when we get over here. But right above us, which I don't think I've ever shared, I do when I'm doing a tour here. So here we have, let me get back up a little more. Oh yeah, the festival of bread is gone. It said it was actually through today, but so here we have this amazing piece of art, Charlemagne. Charlemagne was known as Charles le Grand, the Great, and he was king of the Franks, and he was also a Holy Roman Emperor, and that he is wearing his crown there, and with him are these two handsome gentlemen, Roland and Olivier. It was done in 1878. It's bronze, and it was created, and it was actually, they didn't want to put it here because they thought, the government at the time thought that Charlemagne was against their very republican ways, but then it later ended up having it here. He was originally on a wood base, and there was a fire here in 1906. Caught on fire and slightly damaged the statue, but they were able to fix it, and they put it back on this huge stone base. It was inaugurated on the 14th of July, 1882, and it was one of the few things that survived the German occupation, because Charlemagne has a big history in Germany too, because he was a holy emperor. So they liked him, so they kept him. Up here you see, up there on the North Tower, you see some white tarping because they had to do work on the North Tower. The South Tower was fine, but the North Tower did have a little bit of flame damage. And if you remember, they had said that night that they had, they only had a short period of time. They had about 30 minutes before the fire was going to get in there and could destroy everything and drop the bells. So there was 8 bells in the North Tower. All those bells date back to 2012, 2013. 2013 is when they were put into the church. And the 2 largest ones in there, you have Gabrielle, and that one is 9,100 pounds. And then Marcel, again, we have our Marcel. That bell is over 4,200 pounds. Both of those bells had some fire and heat damage, so they were restored and retuned. All the other ones were cleaned, and those will come back pretty soon because those are also done. So they're doing the work in there to get them ready. So I can't wait. I'm sure it'll be all over the news when they bring them in, and we'll see them. Hopefully they'll let us know in advance so I can come down here and see them flying through the sky. But the island here, of course, was not immune to Haussmann and Napoleon III. And one thing that they did was because Notre Dame, and when Bishop Sully when he had it built, he wanted to make the biggest church in the Western world. For a very long time, Notre Dame was, we'll go up here next to the copy of Our Lady. For a very long time, it was the biggest church. It's the biggest church here in Paris, that's for sure, but not France anymore. And so when they had it built, around here you had tons of buildings. You had buildings like you saw in that the picture on the wall over there, and then also where we are were all buildings and went all the way to the edge. So you have the Hotel Dieu, which is across the street, and this is the hospital. Now it is pretty much just an emergency room. It's not really an overnight hospital. And I used to sneak in there all the time and go up there, up the staircase, and get an amazing view of the church. But it's super creepy in there. It's inside is all like 1950s, 60s Formica, really creepy and really empty. And it's like something from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but they don't let people sneak in there anymore. Now they watch. The last time I tried doing it a few years ago, they came and found me and told me get out. But you had the Hotel Dieu, and at one point there was also a teaching hospital, and so that actually stretched all the way over here to the left bank. And so what Haussmann did is he actually had all of this around here demolished, so that Notre Dame did have this amazing facade. And having it as large as it is also so that the faithful could see it from far away and know where they were going to come here. But she really is amazing. You do have Adam and Eve here again on the front, on the middle layer there. So you have the west rose window in the middle, which is the smallest and the oldest. And on the left of that, but looking to on our left, you have Adam, and on the right is Eve in between the windows there. It's a pretty beautiful day. But of course we have behind us is the prefecture. But let's go up. I don't see, yeah, the tent in there is gone. So the tent that the stone cutters were using is gone. I can't wait till we could go back in there and we could go and stand on the marker again, the .0. I can't wait to be able to get back in there. But she's looking pretty good these days. Let me see some of the... No, the peg, all of those are still there in the back. They're just covered up with that wall, but all of that is still there. There's including there's even more in the last year. But it's sheer, but it is kind of cool. I mean, there will be, because you have different, like, you know, the stained glass workers are done. If the tent is gone, it means a lot of the stone cutters that are down here working are done. There are parts of it that they actually have to do from up above, like on the actual arches. But you can see from over here on the north side here. Let's just go over here to the Parvis. Walking along the north side is so difficult because it's very small and there's lots of people at this time of the day. But from the north side, let's see what we could see of that transept. Let's get a walk around actually the back, because I think this little office that's back here, when I came through last weekend, I think, somebody, that looked like it was actually open, and I want to see if it actually is. And the crypt. If you haven't been in here, definitely go in here. It's really, really cool. I haven't seen the new exhibit. The exhibits, when they do them, they have them, they go for forever. So this is stuff that they found in the Seine. I don't know if it's... Look at, there's an audio guide, a Notre Dame audio guide. Okay, so this is really cool if you could really see. So this is what it's going to look like afterwards. So here is all of the plantings that they're going to do. And where you see over there, number 5, kind of down there on the edge, and then number 4. So number 5 is going to be what number 4 is going to have inside of there. So there's like a picture of what it's going to look like. So it's going to be kind of like a little visitor center. And I'm sure they'll put something in their cafes, or I'm sure they're going to put a gift shop, because I think when they reopen this baby, there's going to be a much larger gift shop. But look at all the trees. It's going to be something like a couple hundred trees that they're going to add in here. But it's going to be pretty amazing. And we have a lot of trees in here already, but I just am excited to be able to see Point Zero again. Point Zero, I should say. Oh, it looks like it's closed. But I did see it. I saw it open one day. So I don't know, maybe Saturdays. I love this little model. Notre Dame. And so you could see. So here's the north transept, if you could see it through the reflection. This model is pretty amazing. I saw somebody online made some huge model. It's like 6 feet tall of Notre Dame out of something that is, I don't know, something that had to do with marbles. It was this 9-minute video that I was watching. Oh, look how pretty. And I still was trying to figure out why I was still watching it. It was very strange. This guy, the amount of work he put into this, he said it took months to build this massive model of Notre Dame that then marbles went through. Oh, look, you could see. So we have Saint Denis. This is a pretty good side. So you can see Saint Denis there on the north transept. He's facing north because he's facing Saint Denis, of course. Let's see if we could. Maybe I'll try to push through the crowd and get at least to the opening over here. And we could see what we could see. And this is always, this is the wall here. This one has pretty much always stayed the same. But the other side, right after the break, where the door is, the gate into the work site, that they do change every 6 months or so. So hopefully I'll probably be changing that again. But here you have all of these based pictures of right after the fire. The best time to come here is early in the morning. And not that early, like 8 o'clock. Because you can walk through here and have the whole place to yourself. And take all the time you want without feeling like you're in the way. But here, yeah, we can't really see anything on the north. We're just too close to it underneath here. But it's just looking pretty good. But you can really see all the red tubing here. But she looks pretty fantastic. She's getting there. All right, guys. Well, I think I will leave you here. I gotta take my coat off. It's a little too hot in the sunshine. But thank you guys so much. I'm gonna go get out of the shade a little bit. Here's all the places you want to avoid. Do not come to any of these places. The prices are gonna be ridiculous. And the food in these places down here is not going to be great. But thank you. Hi, Angela, Sharon, Catherine, everybody. If I missed anybody, just quickly scrolling. Thank you guys so much. If anybody wants to leave a tip, you could send it to PayPal or Venmo, Claudine at ClaudineHemingway.com. And we'll do something next Sunday too. So I know it's Labor Day, so hopefully, or not Labor Day, Memorial Day. Isn't that the holiday in the U.S.? I think. Isn't it? No, who knows? Anyway, but hopefully you could join me next week. And I will see you next Sunday. If not, I'll see you on Instagram before that. And make sure you listen to the podcast tomorrow, this week. And check out all of my Instagram stories. I went and saw a couple of really cool things this week, and I still haven't had time to share them. So I will share some of those things this weekend. So if you are coming here in the next few months, you got to check it out. Oh, look at that. Perfect. perfect view right there. All right, thank you guys so much. And on the note of the music, we'll go ahead and say goodbye. Au revoir, merci.